Good morning, class, and welcome to our virtual morning meeting for today. Today is the best day of the week because today is Friday, and today's date is April 17th. So we're going to go over a few important events that have happened in history on this very special day, April 17th, beginning all the way back in 1704, when the very first successful U.S. newspaper was published in Boston by John Campbell. And even today, 300 years later, we still have newspapers that are all over the United States of America. Now, fast forwarding all the way to 2011, the famous film Thor, which was directed by Kenneth Branagh, which was starring Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, first premieres in Sydney, Australia on this day, April 17th. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about Australia in 1 minute. But today is April 17th, like I just said. And today is also Friday. Now, if today is Friday, what was yesterday? Go ahead and say it aloud to your screen. Good. Yesterday was Thursday. And if today is Friday, what is tomorrow? Good. Tomorrow is Saturday, so we have no school tomorrow, so you can sleep in and do whatever you want to help you relax on Saturday. Now let's jump on over to the weather. What is the weather like where you're from today? So there are different options. Is it sunny out? Is it windy, stormy, partly cloudy, snowy, rainy, or just cloudy? Go ahead and point to the picture that you think represents the weather today. For me, like I said, I'm in Ohio. Today, unfortunately, it's very, very rainy and even might get a little stormy later today. So it's a bit gloomy out. It's raining right now, and it's been raining for a while, and it's going to keep raining throughout the rest of the weekend. So we have a bit of a rainy few days here in Ohio. Let's talk about how hot or cold it is. Is it really cold? Is it cold, cool, warm, hot, or really hot where you're from? Think about what you have to wear when you go outside. If you need to wear a coat or a sweater or a jacket, you're probably going to be thinking it's one of these three where it's kind of cold or cool. Whereas if you only have to wear a t-shirt or maybe just a light long sleeve shirt, it might be warm, hot, or really hot. So go ahead and point with your finger which one represents the weather for today. Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and go into our reading for today. We are reading a story today called Luis and Tabitha, which is a story about cats written by Stephanie Campisi. And Stephanie is our author for today that we're going to talk about. This is a picture of Stephanie. And like I mentioned earlier, how we're going to talk a little bit more about Australia. Stephanie is actually from Australia. So here's a picture of the country of Australia. It is both a country and a continent. And here's the flag of Australia. So if you can imagine our flag, which is also red, white, and blue and has stars, they're very similar, but they also have quite a few differences. And here's a beautiful picture of one of the most famous buildings in Australia. This is the Sydney Opera House, and it's very uniquely designed and one of the key important figures that represent Australia's landmarks. And Australia is also known for their kangaroos. Just like we have deer and squirrel here in the United States, they have this famous animal known as the kangaroo, which hops around and has a pouch for their babies to stay while they're young. So that is a little bit about Australia and a little bit about our author Stephanie. Without further ado, let's jump into our story for today, Luis and Tabitha. Luis was a cat about town. Dashing, charming, perfectly suave. He lived unofficially at the fire station and had since a daring rescue involving a very small Louis, a very shrill smoke alarm, and a very tall house. His tail still had the scorch marks. Louis liked to go visiting, as society cats do. Sometimes he'd travel in the fire truck. Everywhere he went, Louis was welcomed with open arms and leftovers. One night, after too much catnip and too many sardines, Louis was making his rounds when he took a wrong turn. He climbed a wall and saw Tabitha. Elegant, silky, perfectly sophisticated. Louis stopped. Tabitha stared. It was love, love from afar, love under the spotlight of the moon, love thwarted by a thick glass door, and by Tabitha's owner. "Shoo!" she cried. "Shoo!" Louis shooed, but he wasn't done. The next morning Tabitha stared out at a vast bouquet of sardine tins and twine and feathers. Louis smiled. Tabitha smiled. Tabitha's owner did not smile. "Shoo!" she cried. "Shoo!" Louis shooed, but he wasn't done. The next day he brought mice. The day after that he brought pigeons. And after that, balloons, which is not easy when you're a cat. Each day, Louis and Tabitha stared into each other's eyes until Tabitha's owner chased Louis away. Louis needed advice. He asked his friends over a bowl of cream. "You're an outside cat," said Mr. Pickles. "And you need to be an inside cat," said Socks. "Or at least look like one," said One-Eyed Winky. Louis had an idea. The next day, Louis showed up at Tabitha's door once more. Louis smiled. Tabitha smiled. Tabitha's owner clutched her hands to her heart and opened the door. Louis was inside, where everything was soft and warm and scratchable. And Louis and Tabitha were inseparable. Until the doorbell rang. "Is this him?" "That's him." And Louis and Tabitha were thwarted by the thick glass door once more. Louis had a new home and a new name and a new owner. And all the sardines and cheese he could eat. But all he wanted was Tabitha. And all Tabitha wanted was Louis. It was love, love from afar. Love from far too afar. Then the doorbell rang. "Is this him?" "That's him." "And that's not him." and Louis was a cat about town once more. Louis needed advice. He asked his friends over a bowl of cream. "You're an outside cat," said Mr. Pickles. "And she's an inside cat," said Socks. "And that's just the way it is," said One-Eyed Winky. So Louis went visiting, as society cats do. He went visiting all across town. Everywhere he went, he was welcomed with open arms and leftovers. And everywhere he went, Tabitha wasn't. Until one night, Louis was riding in the fire truck when his tail began to tingle. Louis saw Tabitha, elegant, silky, perfectly sophisticated, and in terrible danger. The sirens began to wail. "Everyone outside!" cried the firefighters. The crowd was a cloud of arms and shrieks as it gathered on the corner. But there was no Tabitha. And suddenly, there was no Louis. The crowd waited and worried and fretted. Finally, the gray parted, and from it emerged Louis and Tabitha, leading Tabitha's owner. The crowd cheered. Tabitha's owner plopped down on the curb and clutched her hands to her heart. She looked at Louis and Tabitha and smiled. The cat show judge placed a blue ribbon on Tabitha, and the firefighters placed a gold medal on Louis, and declared them both perfectly heroic. Louis was back inside, where everything was soft and warm and scratchable. And Louis and Tabitha were inseparable. And that is the end of our story. So that was a beautiful story about love and friendship. So my question for you today is, who is your best friend and what do you like about them? What is your favorite thing about your best friend? Thank you and have a wonderful day of learning on this Friday. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Bye.